Moment, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, are we good? Brendan?
We're good to go.
Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the May meeting of the CB6 Transportation Committee. My name is Gene Santoro. I'm the chair of this committee. This meeting is called to order at 7:04 p.m. Tonight, we are joined by Community Associate Brendan Berth. Okay, members of the public, you can raise your hands for any comments or questions through the Q&A feature of Zoom. You don't have to raise your hand, just put them in the Q&A features of Zoom. Sorry, I read this every month and it gets more tangled to me as months go on. Just put them in the Q&A feature of Zoom. If there's time following the committee's discussion, we will field questions from the public. Tonight, there's going to be a tight time limit because of the amount of presentations we have and the amount of stuff on the agenda. So members of the public are going to go after the committee and any other members of the board who might be here. So I'm telling you now that the odds are unlikely that you'll get to ask your questions orally in most cases. So please be prepared to put them in the Q&A. They will be recorded and passed along to the office, to me, and to the presenters. So it's not like we'll be losing your responses or your comments. We just don't have time to actually do them without going into a pointless 3.5-hour long meeting tonight. So I appreciate that on everybody's behalf. Thank you. I'm trying to preserve the committee's sanity and have some respect for its time. Okay, Brian Van Neuenhoven. I hope I got that right, Brian. I've been practicing for weeks. Has volunteered to take tonight's minutes. And we will now take oh, I'm sorry. I forgot the last bit of housekeeping, very important. You should all have received emails from the board office with a link to the Doodle sign-up sheet for 2021 minutes takers. It is also being posted in the chat right now. There it is. Okay, magic. At the direction of the board chair, each committee meeting must have a designated minutes taker and a backup. So please make sure you sign up for as many slots as you can. If more than 2 people sign up for 1 month, the office will redistribute that fairly and let you know. Please sign up ASAP. The link is in the chat now. And yes, we still need minutes takers for June, so please do that. Okay, now that I've finished that, it is time to take attendance, which Brendan will conduct the roll call.
Committee members, I will call your name and you will unmute yourselves. When your name is called, please say present. I will announce if there is quorum. B. Disman.
Present.
Charles Fernandez.
Present.
Andrew Gross.
Present.
Yusuf Khalid. Okay, I do not see Yusuf here. Sandy McKee.
Present.
Phil Napolitano.
Present.
Matt Robert.
Present.
Gene Santoro.
Here.
Larry Shire.
Present.
Ann Seligman.
Present.
Ryan Van Nieuwenhoven.
Present.
Ronnie White.
She's present.
And James Wilson. Okay, I did see James. And
Yes.
He's here.
Yep, we have quorum.
Good. Okay. The agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board's office and appears on the screen before you. If there is no objection, we will adopt the agenda as stated. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the agenda, you may raise your hand through Zoom. Okay, I don't see anyone. Brendan, do you see anyone?
Nope.
Okay. Seeing no objections, the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. The minutes from last month's meeting were distributed ahead of time by the board office. If there's no objection, we will adopt the minutes as drafted. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the minutes, you may raise your hand through Zoom. Okay. Seeing no objections, the minutes from last month's meeting are adopted. They will soon be available on the CB6 website. Okay, the ground rules that we get to go through every month. In order to conduct an efficient meeting, let's observe a few ground rules. 1, no one may speak until granted the floor. 2, committee members, if you have a question about committee business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand through Zoom. We now have the raise hand function separate, so you can just go right to that. If you have technical difficulty, go to the chat icon and relay your difficulty there. The chat function should not be used for committee business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us to any technical difficulties you are having, or to state in writing information like an email address that was already stated aloud on the record during the meeting. 4, when a committee member is given the floor to speak, I will identify you and you can unmute yourself so that you can speak. And 5, we are required by executive order to create a verbatim transcript of this meeting, so please keep your questions and comments succinct and germane to the discussion. And again, remember that committee members will be called on first. There'll be relatively limited question and comment periods because of the size of the agenda, but all questions and comments are being recorded and will be forwarded to the board office, to me, and to the presenters. So nothing will be lost. All comments will be retained and responded to. Okay, tonight's agenda. First up is Sam Schwartz, Engineering, presenting on their redesign possibilities for 3rd Avenue as we requested. So there's Leanne and Mike Flynn. So take it away.
Great, thank you. Leon will be screen sharing. I can kick us off. So thank you to the board and to the Transportation Committee for inviting us tonight. We're happy to share the initial results and recommendations from our study of 3rd Avenue. Just as a quick introduction, my name is Mike Flynn. I'm a principal at Sam Schwartz and I lead our transportation planning work. Leon's a senior planner on our team and was the project manager for this, and I was the project director. We're excited to be supporting the community board with this study, and we definitely see a lot of potential on this section of 3rd Avenue. So we're going to step through kind of the existing conditions and then into some of the design concepts that we explored. At the end, we'll kind of give a summary of all that. I just want to mention before I turn it over to Leon that this is the concepts that we're presenting are preliminary. This wasn't a full scale traffic study, but we feel pretty confident in the ideas that we're putting forward here for discussion based on the data that's out there. So I'll turn it over to Leon to walk us through it.
Thank you, Mike. So I'm going to start with a base condition, and I'm sorry about the background noise. Hope you can hear me well. We studied 26th to 32nd Street. We're looking at right-of-way of 100 feet with a roadway width of 70 feet. I'm sure you're very familiar with the corridor. This is a commercial corridor with mostly residential buildings and some civic buildings like the public library. The corridor sees 3 bus routes, and it's also a local truck route and designated as a Vision Zero priority corridor. In terms of the parking regulation, most of the study area is a 2-hour metered parking with some time for street cleaning. We have a commercial designation area next to the Trader Joe's, and we have areas that are no stopping anytime around the bus stops. We have also some crosstown protected bike lanes on 29 and 26, the pair, and another bike lane on 30th Street. And when we went out there back in March, we saw 23 restaurants and bars that are using the Open Restaurants program in this area between 26 and 28, and then between 29 and 31st. I'll show you some photos of our site observation. I'm sure you've seen it on the site itself. We see it's been very popular. At some location, we see some I'll call it like conflict points between the north-south movement of pedestrians that are walking and the east-west cross movement of the restaurants and the bars. So this suggests it might need for additional pedestrian space on this corridor and potential for expansion of this activity in this area. We also looked at the available traffic data that is done by DOT in the past. So data from 2016 show the trend that you can see up here on the screen. It's a little non-conventional pattern of traffic that we see here. But around the midday, we see a peak of 2,000 vehicles per hour. Data from 2019 show a little lower volumes, but we went with 2,000 vehicles per hour during the highest peak hour as the baseline for this design. From the pedestrian volume that we have information from 34th Street, so a bit north from the corridor, but we're seeing over 2,000 pedestrian on 3rd Avenue on the peak hour, which is in the PM. With this information, we started to look what are the potentials and what are some concepts that we can explore. So this is existing cross-section. You can see here sidewalks width of 15 feet, parking lane of 8 feet, and then 5 travel lanes of 10 feet. On this side, we have parking, loading, and bus stop of 12 feet and another 15 feet on the east sidewalk. I'm going to go through a few ideas, a few concepts, and let's start. So looking at long-term, what are we thinking? We see a potential for reducing the traffic travel lanes from 5 to 2 travel lanes, keeping 2 parking lanes and on the east side to accommodate the buses. We're introducing a protected bike lane. Here it's with a buffer. It could also be a raised bike lane design. And what we can gain from doing that is sidewalk widening of 10 feet on each side. So this is a long-term vision for the corridor. Thinking short-term and kind of taking what we have already on site and how to improve that, we're looking at sidewalk expansion of actually 13 feet on each side with, again, 2 moving lanes and 13 feet on the west side for a curb lane with a little wider to accommodate bikers, and 11 feet on the east side for the bus stops. I want to show a conceptual plan for how it would work on a typical block. So I'll try to walk you through here. In purple, you see the area for the sidewalk expansion, and then you're going to see the parking lane, 2 moving lanes, another parking lane, and sidewalk expansion. The idea would be that on the existing sidewalk, you'll have the opportunity to accommodate outdoor dining, furniture zone, some more amenities for pedestrian. The circulation would be on the expansion of the sidewalk. We also added these mid-block ramps for accessibility and ADA. Yeah, I think I'm showing here an example of a Lower Manhattan, Whitehall Street, so just to show what it could look like. From a maintenance perspective, the idea that the DSNY could access this area and maintain that. Yeah. This is another more conservative options that we're showing here with 3 travel lanes and 2, curb lanes. This will achieve a sidewalk widening of 9 feet. how would we do the transition from 5 to 2 lanes? So this is an example of one block transition using only right turn movement, and then a mid-block transition lane, and another lane that will do only left turn, and that would allow from 5 travel lanes to go into 2 travel lanes on the next block. We're showing another option that will be a transition in 2 blocks, using the same concept of a right turn movement only on this lane, and then left turn only on this lane to get us to the 2 lane moving lanes. We want to raise another option, which is actually starting this transition from 24th Street. And the reasoning that this block between 24 and 23 is a two-way traffic. We only have 3 northbound lanes here, so the transition is much smoother. We also see a potential of connection to the new Baruch Plaza here. So it's combining the improvement on the plaza to a sidewalk widening and expansion of public space. With that, I'm going to give it back to Mike.
Sure. So I'll summarize and then we're happy to answer some questions. I saw one question, or actually I see another one now as well, so we can answer. No, okay. Sorry, I'm not sure what the format.
We'll call on committee members first, Mike, and then we'll deal with the stuff in the Q&A.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Okay, so yeah, just to recap, this kind of, I guess you could say, worst case scenario or peak volume of 2,000 vehicles we feel can be accommodated in 2 travel lanes. You know, you'd want to look a little closer at specific turning movements and things like that, whether maybe turn lanes might be needed at certain intersections. You know, we also assume on projects like this, based on past experience, that if you reduce the capacity on a road, you know, some of that traffic will divert to other routes or just kind of evaporate, basically. The pedestrian activity with the outdoor dining suggests, you know, that we would want to widen the sidewalks. I think, you know, we saw that out there. There's a need for it as well as an opportunity. So this idea of widening the sidewalk with the interim materials, so basically painting the roadway surface, putting out some type of bollards or other delineators, would basically allow for the Department of Sanitation to do the maintenance of that area, of the extended sidewalk area. They could snowplow, they could street sweep, and it wouldn't require a maintenance entity like a business improvement district to take care of that space, basically, since we don't have one in this area. Looking at the buses, we think, you know, it's not necessary, but it would help to maybe restrict some of the parking on the blocks with the bus stops to facilitate the bus move into and out of the bus stop so they don't stop in the moving lane, which could actually help traffic, and potentially using bulb outs or bus bulbs to improve the bus loading. As Leon explained, we need to transition from the, you know, larger number of lanes to the lesser number of lanes. So we can do that over a block or two using turn lanes that kind of like peel off the lanes on the sides. And finally, because 3rd Avenue south of 24th is 2-way with 3 northbound lanes, you know, we could actually start this a couple blocks further south than the study area we were formally tasked with studying, and it would provide an even more seamless transition. So that's just something to consider. So thank you again, and I guess I'll turn it over to the committee.
Okay, thanks, Mike and Leanne. Now, remember the ground rules that I set out for this part of the meeting, please. We're starting with members of the committee. Everybody will get to ask one question because we have a lot on the agenda. Any other questions, follow-up comments you have, you can put them in the Q&A. Again, they will be gone over and looked at. So I already see a whole bunch of hands up. So let's just get going on that. Ronnie, you were first. Ronnie?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Just a quick comment and question. In general, I love this. This is fantastic. And it definitely should start from 24th Street. The traffic turning onto Third Avenue and coming up north on Third Avenue will be forced to slow down, and it gives the traffic, the drivers, everyone time to acclimate to the new street condition. More particularly, I like the conservative and starting from 24th Street as kind of like a hybrid. I think that would make more sense and be safer. And my question is there any consideration to some sort of uniform lighting to further delineate the space at night and twilight? Because with the crazy different tea lights and this and that going on, it could be a distraction, and it all isn't properly lit. And I think some sort of uniform lighting will help with safety and also help the drivers realize that, oh, you're entering a different type of zone. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. For the long run, I think it's definitely something to consider. It's been implemented in other location, improvement of lighting. For the short term, I think this is something to discuss with DOT to see what's feasible. Maybe there is something that could be done by the restaurants or the bars themselves that doesn't, distract the traffic, but helps in a way to delineate the space. But that's a very interesting idea to consider.
Oh, great. It's just also at street level, there are great trees, and that would, be blocked if it weren't, if they were there. So that's why I mentioned it. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Okay, thank you, Ronnie. B, you're up next.
Thank you. So I have two questions. Certainly the ideal recommendation is to go down to 2 lanes, but you also, traffic lanes, but you also had a conservative proposal of 3 lanes to traffic. And you're talking about 2,000 cars, going through. What would the difference be in the merge if you had 3 lanes versus 2 lanes? And have you looked at that from a risk perspective?
We're putting the proposal for 3 lanes, knowing that 2,000 cars could be accommodated in 3 lanes. We believe that by reducing it to 2 lanes, some of the traffic will be diverted to other corridors, and some of it will not exist on 3rd Avenue. Again, from the safety perspective, narrowing the road will help, and safety will reduce the crossing distance. There is potential additional safety improvement that we could introduce as part of it with curb extensions and things like that. Yeah, Mike, would you like to add?
I think maybe if I'm understanding the question might have been about the transition, how it would affect the transition. Is that right?
Yeah, in other words, you're going from, you're taking out 2 lanes, okay, of traffic, and how do you merge them and how you do the transition? It's really smart to do a transition from 1 then to 2. And so I'm looking at that to say, how will it really work with 2,000 cars?
Yeah, again, if you were to begin this a couple blocks further south, it would be a non-issue essentially. But if you don't, then what we're recommending is to basically have these turn lanes, every block. That basically, so the outer lanes become turn lanes, and if you want to stay on 3rd Avenue, you would merge into the center lanes. I think that there are other locations where this happens, and it's something we're comfortable with. But if this were advanced into a detailed design, you could look at longer transitions. But I mean, I think we're pretty, this what we're proposing here, we're comfortable with.
Yeah, so you're giving, just a comment, you're giving them escape clauses to get off Third Avenue by doing the turn.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, B. Larry, you're up next. Unmute yourself, Larry.
Can
There you
you
go.
pull up the slide for the transition block between 24th and 25th Street?
Here or this one?
They're showing the lane design.
The transition from 24 to 25th is here.
With a concept
Yes,
plan?
yes, yes. Thank you. That's
Oh.
what can you push it over further to the left? So the map is more visible in the center.
I can try. Let me.
That's great. That's great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
As an alternative to this particular method of transition, we had considered in the past possibly making this block two ways, as it is in the block from 24th to 23rd Street. And if that's done, this might also relieve traffic above 25th Street, because some of the traffic coming off of 25th Street could now go southbound, and this might be useful. Please consider that.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Larry. Sandy, you're next.
I think we would all agree that it's great to get more public space. I'm just wondering why you assume that the pedestrians would go out in the street. Wouldn't it be better to put the any of the temporary sort of restaurant use so that we could still maintain that public quality to the existing sidewalk?
That's a great question. The reasoning for that was the maintenance consideration. So the idea would be that DSNY would be responsible for the maintenance, and we need to have access to this area and to keep it clear of obstacles. As soon as we're introducing street furniture here, that would require a heavier lift, which seems like at the current condition, there is no organization to take over that. But the design could be changed if there is a different maintenance program in place.
Because certainly as a bicyclist, I ride down the outside of a lot of these, structures, and it's very unpleasant. So if our goal is to make a better experience for pedestrians, I highly recommend that we keep pedestrians on the sidewalk.
Mm-hmm.
Utilize the street space for other things. I understand there's some other programs that DOT has, for instance, the Clean Streets, like taking over several parking spaces for garbage collection, bicycle parking. There's lots of ways that we could use that additional space that might be a little more beneficial to our neighborhood. Thank you.
And in fact, Leanne, let me add to Sandy's thing, because that is actually one of the things we wanted. As you know, I know you changed it to this, but we were also interested in seeing the setup that Sandy described, because that was what we came to you with. So if all the street furniture and the parked cars are moved to those, the new parking lanes outside of the extended sidewalk, and the extended sidewalk is one piece, I don't see any reason, and neither did Colleen when I asked her, see any reason that DSNY wouldn't be able to maintain that space as one continuous sidewalk. DSNY would be maintaining the street side, the street part of it. So that is actually what we were more targeted on.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than this. I understand your reasons, but I appreciate it if you go back and put that in there as well before we start dealing with DOT, some of whom are here, about this, because that is actually what we were looking for. Thanks, Sandy, for bringing that up. Okay, Andrew, you're on.
Hi, thanks. I have just a very brief comment, which is, I think there's some great options here. I'm just gonna, and I understand the justification of why we want to go down to 2 lanes. I'm feeling like we should look at options that are 3 lanes including not necessarily including the bus lane. I am worried that as we pick up traffic and like God willing, commerce comes back to the city. I'm just not sure that 2 lanes is gonna cut it. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I think, if as this concept moves forward, I'm assuming that, there'll be discussions with DOT and that those are kind of the trade-offs that can be evaluated. Just to clarify one thing, we're not proposing a bus lane at this time. The bus volumes are not particularly high along this corridor. It doesn't seem to justify it, but that's, that was based on our assessment.
And again, just thank you, Mike, for that, because just to expand on that a little bit, remember that the reason we commissioned this and the reason we're using this is to give DOT a range of possibilities to get them to act sooner on this. We want this to happen quickly, or as quickly as possible, not in 2024. And so we've jumped ahead and tried to flesh out options that they can then, obviously, when they look at this, they're going to do their own studies, they're going to do their own traffic studies, they're going to do their own assessments, and they'll come back with whatever they come back with. But we wanted to give them concrete options that we think are possible and that would work here, so that they could have a jumping off point that was a little bit ahead of where they might otherwise be. Okay, Anne, you're here. You have your hand up.
I am. I'm here, and I am like not in the car and not driving,
Good.
which is
That's good.
great for, I think, all of us. I actually have a bunch of like really quick things.
No, let's try to keep it down.
No. Just like time me at 2 minutes and I'll get through them all.
Got it. 2 minutes. You're on.
Okay. Aren't there also express bus routes? I think there's, like you say, 3, but I think bus traffic may be under evaluated there. That's number 1. Number 2, for the next iteration, I would love to actually know numbers on how much lost parking there is. I will also comment that typically bikers use the bus lanes on 3rd Avenue. So that's something that needs to be considered. And then really kind of, I think the last thing is that this entire presentation is very symmetrical, east and west, and I think that the east and west sides of the street from a pedestrian perspective are very different, and I would if there's going to be another iteration, I'd like to see that considered. I love the 24th Street alternative. If we're going to go down to 2, that's the place to do it. I share Andrew's concerns about are 2 lanes enough? I am not sure I completely agree with your assumption, and I am not sure where you think that the traffic will be reduced by 10 to 15%, but I'm not sure where you think that will go.
That was good. 2 minutes. I was just about to raise your hand. Okay.
There you go.
Well done.
Let's see where we start. Let's start with the easy win. So yes, bikers should be accommodated on this corridor, and we suggest a protected bike lane. For the long run and for the short term, we want to introduce a wider bike parking lane so they could use the west side and not conflict with the bus operations. We're not looking about loss of parking. We are suggesting at some location next to bus stops to not have direct parking in front of it, because that makes the bus movement harder when they're trying to navigate into their bus stops and out. So that's a location where we would consider changing the parking. For the bus traffic, we haven't seen, as Mike said before, a need for a bus lane, but again, with a further traffic study that should be evaluated as well. And about not symmetric design, again, these are things that we have observed in the afternoon. I'm sure you know.
Sorry, just to clarify, I was not suggesting a bike lane. I was saying that there are more than 3 bus routes that use that. There are many express bus routes on that. So just
Okay.
that, like, it needs to be incorporated.
I'll look into that. Thank you. Yeah, I think I've addressed most of it. Mike, if you have anything else.
No, I mean, I think we addressed the point about the traffic capacity also with one of the previous questions, that would, it would need to be looked at closer.
Yep. Okay, I don't see any other hands up. So I think we're good.
I see James raising his hand if you want.
Okay. Oh, good. I didn't. All right, James, please go ahead. James.
Yes. My question is concerning concept design on the line proposed conservative. The area between 31st Street and 32nd Street, do you propose to expand the sidewalk in that area between 31st and 32nd?
Yes, the concept is for the full study area. Again, this block is a little different because of the operation of the Trader Joe's. But essentially, that's the concept there as well.
So how much sidewalk would you actually add?
On the conservative, it's 9 feet additional sidewalk widening that gets you to 24 feet at total.
I see. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jim, Ronnie, you already had a question. Is it something really quick?
Thank you. My question is there any consideration with the egress on the 2 new construction sites on 3rd Avenue right now? There's the one building that's completed. They have a little alcove that is wide enough for something. And then the one where they have the scaffolding, when that comes down, how much space is that going to add? And again, I love the idea if you start at 24th Street and do 3 lanes, I think that would mitigate the problem. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, I think, Ronnie, if you take your hand down so that I don't call you again, I'd appreciate it.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. I'm easily confused and just trying to avoid getting confused. Okay, I think that we're done.
Excuse me, Gene?
Yeah.
It's Phil. I just have one quick question. Thanks, guys, for the presentation and the options. Are you aware if there are going to be any DOT projects along this corridor in the next few years that might interrupt your implementation at some point, whenever that might begin or they might begin? And what about the existing construction? I know that it's not, that's not your area, but how might future DOT projects implement your design?
I'm not sure that anybody understands that question, Phil, exactly. We're planning for now, if DOT, and we're doing this, as you well know, because you've been involved in this, to urge DOT to consider redesigning this portion of the avenue in some way along some of the lines that we're suggesting, or in something that they come up with that's better. What future projects they're planning 2 or 3 years down the road is something that we don't have to worry about right now. They'll have to worry about that in terms of integrating it with what's already been done here. So I'm not sure I understand the point of your question.
My point was, are we aware of any DOT projects along this street that might interfere with any implementation? Now, we don't have to go into what the future will yield. It's, that's just the question. Is there anything perhaps across town, bike lane rather, or additional construction where permits have already been filed? What might obstruct this implementation over the next few years? I know it's a broad question, but right now there's a lot of construction on 3rd. And, that would certainly block any implementation. So that was just my question, if they were aware of anything.
I think the hope is that DOT would implement this, so they would coordinate internally amongst themselves, to design this in a way that sort of integrates with the other things they have planned.
Sure. That would definitely be wise planning on their part. I'm sure that they would consider all the projects that they have slated.
Okay,
Thank you.
Phil, you okay with that?
Yeah, that's a smart answer. Thank you very much.
Great. Okay, good. So we are done. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Leanne. And we'll be talking to you, and hopefully DOT as well, as we tweak this a little bit thanks to people's responses and comments, and then try to move it forward. So appreciate you guys, appreciate the work and the presentation, and appreciate the responses to the questions and comments that were here tonight. And we'll talk soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is Yusuf has joined us, Brendan, in case you haven't seen that. Next up is the fabulous bridge named after next New York mayor, but being a native-born New Yorker, I can't call it anything but the 59th Street Bridge. So sorry, Mayor, whatever your name was. We'll get back to you about that. So we're looking forward to this because we've been eager to see it. I know a lot of people have been eager to see it. So let's rock. Sean, I believe you've got it.
Yes, I do. Is everyone able to see my screen? Yep. Fantastic. Yeah, so my name is Sean Macias. I'm a project or deputy director now with the bicycle program at New York City DOT. Thanks for allowing us to discuss our work here tonight. The aim of tonight's presentation is to give an update about our proposed plans for the Queensboro Bridge, as well as the South Outer Roadway. So in 2007, DOT began prioritizing design changes that improve cyclist connections to the East River bridges, as well as making improvements on the bridge structures themselves. Specific to the Queensboro Bridge, DOT focused on providing protected connections. First on, to begin with, on First and Second Avenues in the 20-teens. In 2019, we closed a critical gap where the upper roadway touches down between 60th and 59th on Second Ave. And this past summer, as a response to COVID, we installed temporary lanes on 61st and 62nd to improve connections between the park and the bridge. In Queens, we've also made similar progress, improving bicycle connections on Crescent Street and installing another temporary bike lane on Northern between 41st Ave and Broadway. Bicycle volumes on all East River bridges continue to go up. In the last 5 years, we've seen nearly a 15% increase. And during COVID, and this is on all East River bridges, we saw nearly a 30% increase. And specific to the Queensboro Bridge, we saw a 45% increase. So, the North Outer Roadway is at capacity. During COVID, we really saw that it was being, stretched to its limit. And we've begun to investigate how to expand access and continue to allow this asset to meet the demand for pedestrians and bike volumes. So as I just mentioned, we did start 2 projects, one in Manhattan and one in Northern, the temporary bike lane projects I referenced. So this is just to let everyone know, and I'm sure this group is aware that we plan to come back and install 61st and 62nd and more permanent materials using green paint, thermoplastic, and vertical elements, and the same for Northern to continue to strengthen those connections to this bridge. And now this is our proposed project. We'd like to propose eliminating vehicle access and converting the South Outer Roadway to pedestrians only. To accomplish that, we'd like to add an 8-foot pedestrian fencing above the railing. Hopefully everyone can see my cursor, and here's the railing here. We'd also like to add markings on the asphalt to denote directionality. As we propose these changes, we would propose that the South Outer Roadway be pedestrian only, and that the North Outer Roadway become cyclists only. And I should say, this is kind of, mid-bridge, what it would look like. Where the bridge touches down, we would add gates to both sides to allow access for maintenance vehicles, but prevent general use traffic to get into the space. And on the Manhattan side specifically, access will be maintained to DOT's operational facility under the bridge. So as you can see here, there's the sidewalk on the right and the roadway to the left. Pedestrians would access the South Outer Roadway using the existing wide sidewalk that loops around Honey Locust Park, and where the sidewalk and the outer roadway are at the same grade. Pedestrians we'd remove a couple Jersey barriers, and pedestrians can access the space seamlessly there. As part of the conversion to pedestrian-only facility, DOT plans to make upgrades to the existing streetscape where the path touches down on each side of the bridge. So in Manhattan, that's near 59th and 1st. And on the Queens side, that's Crescent Street and Queens Plaza South. Those designs will follow our traditional SIP process. So once they're developed, we bring them to spaces like this for community input. Updates to wayfinding and signage will reinforce that the North Outer Roadway should be bikes only. We'll make similar upgrades to the South Outer Roadway, but in the inverse, denoting that it is pedestrian only. A traffic study to determine additional supportive changes to the traffic pattern on the bridge or on the bridge approaches to minimize traffic disruptions will also be undertaken and coordinated with MTA CBD tolling program.
Excuse me a minute, Sean, it's Gene. Brendan, could you please mute everybody's mics? We're getting leakage from somewhere and I don't know where it's coming from. Thank you.
Thanks. It was rather uplifting though. So here I'd like to provide just a little bit more about information on the ongoing redecking bridge work that influences the timing of the improvements of the South Outer Roadway. For those who don't know, the bridge is over 100 years old, and the bridge rating is currently 4.2 out of 7, and that's as of 2018. Changes in bridge use over the years have added to the weight of the bridge trusses. Heavy vehicle loads have also added to the stress on these truss members. Since 2018, DOT has been working on a repair project on the upper deck to extend the life of the bridge by 50 to 75 years, as well as increase fire safety. During the redecking construction, at least one lane must be closed on the upper level at all times. And during off-peak hours, 2 lanes are closed, and that's in order to facilitate access to the surface to make the necessary improvements. Because of the construction, the South Outer Roadway must be left available for traffic at key times during upper deck construction to reduce local traffic issues. And those findings are based on traffic studies and analyses. So with that redecking info in mind, here's our proposed timeline. In 2021, this is really the kickoff of the community outreach process. I think there'll be several more meetings as designs start to mature. We have to still go through Landmarks and Preservations Commission. We anticipate to undertake that process in June. We have to finalize the change order with the existing upper level contractor. We're going to make changes to that contract so that contractor is able to make the improvements of the fencing and the markings and the gates that I outlined. And then they'll begin installing fence and gates in coordination with the upper level work. And finally, we need to complete that traffic study and propose any changes to traffic patterns, which we would come back to bodies like these to present, and that would be over the summer. And then our target is to complete the upper level construction in 2022, as well as open the South Outer Roadway to pedestrian traffic after completion of the upper level construction is achieved. And with that, I'll turn it back to Eugene or the committee for questions.
Great, thanks, Sean. Okay. Okay, I'm seeing Ann and then Larry. Ann, you're on.
Hey, I'm going to raise a question that I think I raised the first time this was discussed, which is this sort of awkward timing between, I think it's 6:30 a.m. and 10 a.m. when the upper roadway is inbound only. so that people coming up First Avenue use that like that's the best way to get onto the outer roadway. And now, you know, with this change, which I think is a great change, what they will end up doing is either adding to the crush on 3rd Avenue and 59th Street, or they'll go back across to 61st Street and go west on 61st Street and kind of make the loop around where they are mixing with that. And I think there was a reference to a, you know, traffic study that would have to happen to understand, you know, implications of this. That I think would be like just a really, really key element of that. And just the other thing that is kind of related is that I'm wondering, are you assuming that 59th Street between 2nd and 1st will still stay in eastbound street so that the businesses and residents on that street can get deliveries?
Great questions. I'll answer the second first. I think the design on 59th Street is still in the air. You know, it will most likely be informed by what the traffic study finds. So that leads back into your first question. There will be a full traffic study. I think what you pointed out in terms of, you know, someone who was using the South Outer Roadway, you know, in the AM, they will have to find a new route. But I think all of that we're hoping to identify and try to solve as part of our traffic study. And if there are some folks here from Bridges that may want to add on to that as well.
Hey, Sean, it's Paul. Yeah, you're right. So the traffic study will take a look at that South Upper Roadway and the HOV operation, and that'll be one of the variables that gets looked at in the process.
Yeah, it's only like a few hours a day, but they are an important few hours a day, and the implications could be ugly. So just keep it in mind.
It's a great flag.
Appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Ann. Larry, you're up next.
Well, I share with Ann the observation that this is a great shortcut that would be lost. And that's all I have to say about that. My question has to do with the fencing. And is there any way to design fencing so that it might be possible as a pedestrian to be able to take photographs of this beautiful view off the bridge without having you know, chicken wire in the way of the photographs? Because if you've got some kind of a plexiglass or some means of creating photographic places for pedestrians who might be able to enjoy the view, this would be worth considering.
This is Jonine from DOT Bridges, and Nick Pedinati, my colleague from our Urban Design Division, is also on the call. He can speak to the PDC design, but we did spend probably 6 or 7 years examining potential alternatives to chain link fencing. And there are a number of reasons we landed back on chain link fencing. It is in the New York State Bridge Design Manual, which governs essentially all of our bridge design, but it also provides us the opportunity to maintain the bridge in a way that Deputy Assistant Commissioner Schwartz, who's on the call here today, his forces have to be able to maintain the fence 24/7, 365. It's a material that we stock, we can get readily. It's the least expensive material. The bridge, the installation of the fencing is somewhere upwards of 7,000 feet of fence has to be installed. And this is the fence that we have decided also discourages, unfortunately, people from dropping things and throwing things off the bridge, which has become an increasing problem, as well as a suicide concern. We did initiate a program last year of installing some signage and working with New York State DOT and other state departments of transportation on suicide awareness. And the purpose of the fencing is to protect the pedestrians, but also to protect marine traffic below vehicles on the FDR Drive. The problem with the other materials that you've mentioned is that wherever they have been used, they are essentially graffitied, stickered, scratched, obscured, cracked. There really hasn't come up with a material where we could even say, let's consider a break in the fence or something where we could create the kind of use you're speaking to. It's a great idea. I think we would, be happy to look at it, but we have not been able to find a material that doesn't get abused, unfortunately, by the public.
Well, why don't you consider something like inserts, which could be made out of something like galvanized steel, which would have slotted openings. Again, something that could be at intervals that would enable people who want to take photographs from the bridge, which it's a priceless view, to be able to do that.
Again, I think because the bridge is landmarked, we would not likely receive approval for any kind of those alternatives from the Public Design Commission. I don't know, Nick, if you feel you want to comment in addition to what I've noted.
How do you get approval for the chain link fence then?
Yes, we do have to secure approval for the chain link fence.
Yeah, and we've been working very closely with the Landmarks Preservation Commission. Obviously, the north outer roadway currently supports the 1 inch by 1 inch chain link mesh openings. And so there has been a fair amount of discussion with them about ensuring there is consistency on both sides of the bridge. I think I will echo Jonine's point in just that we've actually found, I think, over time that the chain link mesh holds up the best and still does provide that overall transparency for folks that are walking along the structures. Any of the other materials that are more transparent, like the plexiglass, any sort of glass material ends up being a real maintenance headache and something that ultimately loses its transparency. And I will say from a standards perspective, we do need to maintain 1 inch by 1 inch opening at the greatest. That's per state and city standards to deal with all of the things that Jonine had mentioned in terms of climbing and throwing and those kinds of things. So we definitely hear you. I think we are trying to make sure that there is transparency in this new amenity, but that we can also do it in a way that is maintainable.
Okay, thank you. Sandy, then B.
This is maybe a bit of a segue, but it's still about the bridge. I know when we talked about the design previously, there's now the bicycle lane extending down 2nd Avenue, but we were going to have pedestrians be able to walk across on the east side of 2nd Avenue. Are you still going to implement that? Pedestrians able to cross in front of the bridge?
Are you talking like 60th on 60th between 1st and 2nd, that location?
Yes, on 2nd Avenue, 60th South on 2nd Avenue, for pedestrians to be able to follow the same path that the bicycles do.
So the plan is still to install bike markings and pedestrian crossing markings there, yes.
Do you know when that will be?
We are, I think, going through the final stages of outreach, but sometime, this spring or summer.
Because it's already been approved.
Sean,
right?
Sean, hi, Sandy. Good evening.
Yeah.
Hi. My name's Ed Pinkar. I'm the Manhattan Borough Commissioner. Sandy, we're happy to go back and get the latest update. But we did run into some constructability issues with changes to the teardrop and the pork chop. And unfortunately, it wasn't something that we were able to perform through our in-house forces. We'll need to include that in an upcoming capital project. So Colleen and I will loop back in with the team tomorrow and then share with you and Jean the latest information.
Thank you. Apologies, it's a bit of a segue.
Yeah, the immortal pork chop is something we've been waiting for a long time. Anyway, moving along, B, and then Ronnie, thank you.
Thank you. And so, this is a concept that I've been very supportive of over the years. And I wonder, is our community board the first community board you're presenting this to? Have you presented it to your Queens counterparts, and has there been any reaction?
We are scheduled to go to Queens Community Board 2 tomorrow evening, and we're scheduled to go to Manhattan Community Board 8 on Wednesday. In general, the concept has received very broad support from all the audiences that have been made aware of it. I believe the mayor announced this at the State of the City back in January. So we've heard the same kind of concerns that people have about how to make sure it's safe, what will happen to traffic in and around the bridge. But in general, there's been very broad support for the project.
Thank you.
Okay, yes, Ronnie, you were up next, and then Yusuf.
Hi. Is there a problem with people attaching locks to the fencing? Thanks.
Yes, as a matter of fact, thankfully, the public's interest in love locks has somewhat diminished. Was not as big an issue for this bridge, but it was a very serious issue for the Brooklyn Bridge. And we actually do have periods of time where Commissioner Schwartz's team have to go out. If you could picture a very big tractor trailer with the roof cut off, and the lock nipper guys go across the bridge, and the locks drop down into the open truck. And then it's our responsibility to dispose of them. And they are in the thousands of locks that we do have to remove from the bridge. There are not many here, and we hope that the general public has kind of forgotten about that practice.
Okay, Yusuf, you're on.
Okay. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, this is a great initiative, and I'm really excited about it coming to fruition. One minor note, as both a pedestrian and cyclist, that I'd be interested to understand either from your existing data or in the study that you'll conduct, is about the types of non-bicycles and non-pedestrians that end up making their way on the existing roadway. So I found that there was an uptick, and maybe it was just last summer, of mopeds being on the same laneway, or in some cases like smaller motorcycles. They're typically bigger. They're of course, faster than even the typical e-bike or scooter. And I just wasn't sure where that was coming from and how often it was happening. It was both from the Queens side and the Manhattan side, and would just be interested to know if that's a focus, if even better signage or other ways of deterrence could be used to ensure that even with new space or expanded space for bikes and for pedestrians, that we don't have these like larger motorized vehicles in those laneways. Thanks.
So it is an issue that has been brought to Bridges' attention, and we have discussed it with our TPM colleagues. We're waiting for further guidance and clarification from the DOT legal division. I'm sure I'm not well versed on the different types of devices that exist, but they do go from, full motorcycles all the way down to, a child's tricycle with numerous iterations in the middle. And so we're waiting for clarification from our DOT legal on exactly what types of motorized or motor assist bicycles are permitted. And we will be working with TPM on some signage. And we've had 2 conversations that I've been part of to try to work this out with NYPD, what the signage needs to say, what it needs to look like. And then of course it needs to be vetted through the law department before we can do that. But it is a concern that we are aware of, that we have received complaints about. I don't have a specific answer for you tonight, but hopefully in the coming weeks and months, we'll have some clarity for you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions right now. So, but before I let you go, let me just let me just duly note that Ed Pinkar is here. We don't often have the Manhattan DOT Commissioner in our meetings, but shout out to Ed. Thanks for coming.
Of course, thanks for having me.
Hope you enjoyed the show.
Yeah, thanks, Ed.
And we also had Pedro Carrillo, who was Chief of Staff for Carlina Rivera, who was here for the Third Avenue presentation, who wanted to state for the record, we're going to put this, he's going to type it into the Q&A before he goes, but that he was aware, some of you maybe have seen the Streets blog article about transportation alternatives plans for Third Avenue that came out about a week ago. And Pedro wanted to note that we were there firstest with the mostest, and B, that in answer to some of the questions that arose during that section, that congestion pricing is coming on. And so some of these traffic levels that people are speculating about, traffic's already back up to 90 to 95% of its 2019 levels anyway, but that some of the traffic levels people are speculating about will be cut down by congestion pricing when that comes in. So those are other ways to think about it. Again, thank you, Ed. Thank you, DOT folks, for sharing. We look forward to the more fleshed out iteration of this next time around, because it's an interesting start. And I think between us and the various other people you'll be seeing in the next few days, I'm sure you'll have a bushel load of responses that you'll have to figure out how to deal with. So look forward to seeing what that is over the summer. You think that is going to be September? What's your guess, Ed?
I think we'll definitely look to have an update later this fall. And obviously, as we work towards implementation in hopefully 2022, more conversations. But we're making good progress, and we'll be in touch.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, and there's Patrick, long-suffering, quiet, laughing. Item 3 on the agenda. Not too bad. It could have been 8:45, Patrick. You're gesticulating great, but I can't hear you because your mic's not on. All right, we're.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was flipping back and forth. I said, no, it's nice to be here and nice to hear all that. Great stuff, Third Avenue. I mean, oops, what happened? Okay.
Here we go.
This is Brian, the minutes taker. Patrick, I know who you are, so thank you for joining us. But I do have a real question, quick question for the chair. Did we vote?
Oh, now? I'm sorry. Thank you, Brian. No, we need a. Yeah.
He thinks you moved the agenda too quick.
I skipped right over one of the key parts of the agenda, which is, yes, we do need to have a reso on this. And everybody was
Wait, I'm sorry. There's a reso on the bridge.
The bridge, yes, the bridge is a reso required. I have the vote part of the minutes all set up already. I moved to have a vote on that part.
Colleen, that's correct, right? That's what you said this morning when I asked you.
Yeah, that's correct, Jean. It's good to have a resolution on file from the community board. We'd recommend one.
Okay, well then I guess we'll do one. Okay, because it is a sketchy presentation, so I know we're voting on sort of the idea of this rather than the actual details of it.
Yeah, I'm a little hesitant. I mean, you laid out such a detailed, like what we were going to do this month and what required resos and what didn't. And it was not clear to me that I might have listened to the entire discussion a little bit differently had I thought that there was going to be a reso.
This is Brian. I'm going to raise my hand.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Brian.
I make a motion to create a resolution in support of the proposed proposal from DOT about the Queensboro Bridge, North Outer Roadway and South Outer Roadway.
Do we have a B?
Yeah, I'm sort of with Ann, if I could just say, unless we're supporting the concept, but you really can't you can't do a resolution with a lot of ideas or stuff because they need to come back with a lot of information. So is it a reso to support the concept, which certainly I support?
It would be B, to support the concept, yeah.
Yeah, good.
Okay, then I
agree with
second that.
Yes, I agree with B and Ann both. It's
Yeah.
a very
And that was
sketchy-
my intention with the motion. So
Yeah.
sounds like we're all on the same page.
So exactly. So let's do a vote on a reso of general support for the idea of separating the pedestrian walkway from the bikeway, putting the pedestrian walkway on the south side of the bridge and leaving the bikes on the north side of the bridge. And with some language about looking forward to the more substantive presentation that DOT will be coming back with in the fall. Does that satisfy folks?
That's well put.
Second that.
Okay. So why don't we vote on that motion and move ahead? So Brendan.
Okay, when I'll call your name, please say whether you are in favor, opposed, abstain, or abstain for cause. B. Disman.
In favor.
Charles Fernandez.
In favor.
Andrew Gross.
In favor.
Yusuf Khalid.
In favor.
Sandy McKee.
In favor.
Phil Napolitano.
In favor.
Matt Roberts.
That was an in favor. I could read Matt's lips.
Oh, sorry, it didn't come through?
No.
Yeah, it's in favor.
Gene Santoro.
In favor.
Larry Shire.
In favor.
Ann Seligman.
In favor.
Brian Van Nieuwenhoven.
In favor.
Ronnie White.
In favor.
And James Wilson.
James?
James?
In favor.
Okay.
Great.
So with 13 in favor, nobody opposed, nobody abstaining, and nobody abstaining for cause, the resolution passes.
Excellent. Now we just need somebody to write it. It's not exactly heavy lifting because it is a very general, obviously, reso of support. So who can I encourage to step up? Oh, everybody at once. No, wait, stop. No, too many people all at the same time. Anne, thank you. Okay, so Anne is down for that. Thank you, Anne. And now I think, unless Brian's got something else that I've screwed up, which he may.
Nope, we've come back to 3. Patrick, I guess you're up.
Okay, good. Thank you. Sorry, Patrick. Sometimes I'm too much in the groove.
Nice to see you, Brian, Brendan, everybody. Thank you. I was laughing before. I was smiling, agreeing with you. I didn't know my microphone was off. That we had Ed Pinkar and others on, and it was great. Yes, I was agreeing with you when I was saying. So thank you for having me here tonight, and I'll be quick. I think Brendan, thank you. Is these the Colleen? Do you want to start with this letter, or do you want me to start? Gene, you. I see this letter.
You're fine. You do it.
It describes it. Yeah. So I'll make my commentary on this letter. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll open up with the fact that, as you know, Hampton Jitney's been operating continuous daily service and commuter service between New York City and the east end of Long Island since 1974. Currently operates 365 days a year and has been for many years contributing to the National Transit Database in public transportation commuter services. However, it does not, I repeat, does not participate in the STOA State Transit Operating Assistance Programs. That's why we're going bus stop by bus stop. It was a franchise carrier up until the 1990s. And this bus stop in particular that's being discussed tonight was actually the original Hampton Jitney bus stop at East 41st and Lex. With additional activity, it moved down to rather block to East 40th. This current application was put in September 30th, 2021. And the reason is we look to move our North Fork service to this location. Our North Fork service is currently has been operating into East 44th and 3rd. And to spread the load a little bit, it's the smallest piece of the service. Most of the service goes to the South Fork. Most of the ridership comes from north of East 40th and 41st Street. The East 41st Street stop originally was, or 44th was originally Sunrise Coach prior to the acquisition, again in the 1990s, when Hampton Jitney took over Sunrise Coach. So the services we're proposing would include currently about 8 buses a day, only pickups, no drop-offs. I think it's stated here Monday to Thursday and Sunday, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. It's clear. Frequency every 1 or 2 hours. Majority of the people are getting up on north, up Lexington from 86th, 68th, and other locations, 82nd, further up. We do not expect this to be a traffic problem. In the reverse, it improves traffic flow. It takes buses off Lex, and it's a quick stop on its way close to the bridge outbound, and it provides an efficiency of service for the management. Actually, dispatchers can go between 40th and 41st Street as opposed to running back and forth to 44th. So it provides an integral service and an intermodal program to Grand Central as well, from Grand Central as well. So based on that, we also have been in touch with the locals and put up notice that we were talking to you. And I'm here this evening to ask for your support of this. On behalf of Mr. Lynch, we thank you. And we have been and continue to be in service every day for the riding public on the east side to Long Island. I thank you. If there's any questions, I'm here tonight. Colleen is, I think, on board too tonight. Is that right?
She is.
Yes, we're in support of this location.
Okay.
Did I do anything, Colleen, on my commentary?
Patrick, you did excellent.
Okay. So,
I'm a fast-talking boy from Brooklyn.
We're ready to roll. We're ready to roll. We actually have a question. Hold on. So I saw Ann's hand up.
Sure.
Yes, I got there before somebody called to question. And my question is not actually about this, but I'm just curious what you guys think. You probably are one of those, bus services that goes up 3rd Avenue. And I'm wondering what you think about the presentation that you sat through to hear this, about what that will do for you guys.
I made my notes about this for Mr. Lynch. My background, by the way, is lifelong here in the bus industry. I owned and operated one of the franchise bus companies. I recognize that a fundamental is traffic flow is important, but I noticed the reduction of 5 lanes to 3. Speaking as Hampton Jitney, and I will inform Mr. Lynch, we have minimal impact because the majority of our passenger service comes from the north of 40th and 41st. So we will not be coming up 3rd. And on the inbound from Long Island, we again come out of the tunnel and north of 40th and 41st. So we don't have the impact, but if I was in local express bus service, which I was many years ago, the new development is what I see in the picture I'm looking at right now, which is a nice clear picture, thank you. But the FedEx truck is there. In my neighborhood, there's FedEx trucks and UPS trucks and Amazon trucks double parked everywhere and people trying to come. So it impedes traffic flow when the bus, and I repeat this, is the most efficient vehicle on surface transportation. 55 people, if they were not riding in a car or in one vehicle, 45 feet long and 102 inches wide, traffic could be eliminated if all passenger transportation was in buses. So my immediate reaction to that was to make a lot of notes, thank you. And I appreciate the opportunity to make a comment on that. Traffic flow is the important thing. So I think bus lanes are really, dedicated bus lanes are an important thing. They always have been. And they improve the majority of people moving, traffic flow being the key word. And we all know the situation with the double park, trucks for deliveries these days in this era of deliveries.
Okay, thanks, Patrick. Thank you, Ann. That's kind of off topic, but B, what do you got?
I want to be on topic and make a recommendation to support a resolution moving the bus stop as proposed.
Do we have a second? Jim, could you please mute your—
I'll second it.
Okay, that was Brian. Brian seconded the motion.
I will work on muting.
Okay, Jim, would you please mute yourself? We're getting feedback from your.
I just pressed it.
No, you're still on. There you go. Thank you. Okay, so we have the motion. We have it seconded. Brendan, it's in your hands.
Okay. When I call your name, please say whether you are in favor, opposed, abstain, or pause. B. Disman,
In favor.
Charles Fernandez,
In favor.
Andrew Gross, Andrew
He had
Gross.
to leave somewhere around 8:15. Sorry.
Okay. Yusuf Khalid,
In favor.
Sandy McKee,
In favor.
Phil Napolitano,
In favor.
Matt Roberts,
In favor.
Gene Santoro,
In favor.
Larry Shire,
In favor.
and Seligman,
In favor.
Brian Van Nieuwenhoven,
In favor.
Ronnie White,
In favor.
and James Wilson.
In favor.
Okay. With 12 in favor, nobody opposed, nobody abstaining, and nobody abstaining for cause, the resolution passes.
Now we just need someone to write it.
Jean, I'll write it.
Excellent. Thank you, B. Okay. So we're done with the fun presentation portions of the meeting. Now we can move on. I believe it's Colleen. I believe it's your turn up, unless I'm totally out of sequence. It's time for your.
Oh, no, Jean, you're not out of sequence.
Well, once I screw up, I'm never sure again. That's how it goes.
No, some great presentations tonight. The only thing that I have to update the board about is the 36th Street Open Street. So we're finalizing our review about that, and we should have a response for the community board by this week. And just to let you know, I believe, Sandy, if you are there, we did get quite a few, or I at least got quite a few emails from residents who are really interested in this space being used for open streets. So I will follow up with them after we follow up with the community board, just to let you know.
And it was not me that gave them your email.
That's okay. I know.
Want you to
but
know that.
Yeah, I know that, but I just wanted you to know, because I know you've been pushing for this, but I just wanted to let you know that there are quite a few residents who are also expressing the same thought as you are with having this location as an open street.
There's a lot of support.
Okay, great.
Yes.
There we go.
So I will get back to the community board by the end of this week. Okay.
Colleen, which location is this for the minutes?
It's 36th Street, near I think near the tunnel.
Next to the park.
Yeah.
Tunnel Access Street and First Avenue, East
Yes.
6th.
Okay, so Colleen, before you go, I have a few questions for you if nobody else does. One is I've asked you about the status of the street safety ambassadors. Are they coming back?
So Jean, I want to say yes, they are coming back, but the schedule hasn't been confirmed yet in terms of where they're going to be stationed. I mean, keep in mind that we are coming back one day out of the week. That is most of us within this agency. Mm-hmm. So if you have critical locations that you want us to look at or help out with, please feel free to send me your top 5 or your top 3.
Okay.
Okay, and I'll see what we can do.
Got it. Summer Streets, the mayor announced with great fanfare, I guess it was last week, that New York was going to be a summer festival or something like that. I forget exactly what his words were. Anyway, what I want to know about is, do Summer Streets play a role in that fabulous planning? And if so, what kind of a role?
Well, you know what? I have not had any meetings yet with my colleagues pertaining to Summer Streets to finalize anything yet that in terms of outreach and how we're going to put this out with the community boards and with the elected officials. So as soon as I have more with my colleagues, I'll share that with the community board.
Okay, fair enough.
We haven't had any internal discussions about it yet. I mean, at least I haven't.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And the last thing, is there a time frame for the 20th Street fix that's going to happen between First and Avenue C?
We continue to talk to DDC about, creating another safe route for cyclists. So once we finalize, what the route would be, we'll get back to the community board. But we had a call with DDC about a week and a half ago, and we've exchanged information in terms of our you know, our bike group was on that call and they mentioned some of the concerns that was raised by the community board. So we're hoping that we can work this out so that, you know, there will be a safe route for cyclists. Yeah.
Okay, that was a great answer, but it wasn't actually my question. I was happy to hear that. You're talking about the bike detour, the bike.
Yes, yes, I'm talking about the bike
Yeah,
detour.
that's fabulous because that's more information than we got out of DDC
Yeah.
the last time we saw them. So I'm happy to hear that. But what I was asking about was actually you were going to do a tweak to the installation between on 20th Street, the bike lane that was put down there between Avenue C and First Avenue. There were going to be some changes, and I wondered if there was a time frame for when that was going to happen.
I would have to, let me get back to you on that one, Jean. Let me confirm with our bike group. I'll get back to you on that one.
Okay, good enough.
All right.
Yep. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, Colleen.
Perfect. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, I think now we're up to the chair's report. That would be me. I don't have a lot. We did meet with NYU, Kyle and I, about a week and a half ago. They've done this before. Sandy's aware of it. Molly was aware of it. They've usually met with the board every year, every couple of times a year, whatever. They now want to ramp it up to every couple of months. So we're starting to talk about shared concerns that we have sometimes from different perspectives. One of those is obviously going to be the parking on the East River front, right north of the helipad. So we've started to broach that conversation with them. And they have some other concerns of their own as well, but those will be coming up in the fall as we flesh them out. And really beyond that, not a lot happening. You saw most of it happening on the agenda tonight. That's mostly what I've been up to for the last month. So next month, we're going to be looking at, here it is. There it is. All of our elected officials are currently supporting expanding the Second Avenue bike lanes from 1 lane to 2 because of the volume of traffic that's been there and the ratio of bike to auto traffic, which is, the last time I looked, was something like 1.7 to 1 cars to bikes, which is pretty amazing. So they've all come out from Gail Brewer on down to Carlina, Keith, everybody in favor of this. So I would like us to look at that and decide whether we want to do a reso in support of their support for that, and thereby ask DOT to do the necessary studies and background work to look into expanding that bike lane. And then we'll be looking at DOT's got new ideas about how to do loading zones, which is something we're going to be looking at because it might free up some curb space and thereby eliminate some double parking, as Patrick was talking about before. We also have Carlina Rivera sponsoring a bill in the city council that would allow delivery bikers to actually use the restroom facilities in the restaurants that they are delivering for. This seems like a kind of a no-brainer, but yeah, I know. And stop hitting yourself; you'll just hurt yourself. You know, but it's going to take a bill to make that happen. It's going to take a local law to make that happen. So we can discuss whether and how we want to support that effort. So that's going to be some of the stuff coming up for next month. And that's really it. I want to congratulate everybody on getting through a dense agenda in under 2 hours. I'm pleased. I think we should all go have a drink and celebrate as soon as the call is over. But thank you, as always, for your participation and for dealing with this. Transportation meetings can be a lot of work. When I drop in on some of the other committee meetings, I think sometimes, well, why didn't I stay on this one instead? But you know, we love it, so that's why we're here. Thank you all. Unless there's some issue to be raised, I'm just waiting to hear somebody say something about leaving. And
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to
Hey, there we
adjourn.
go.
Happy
Well-
Mother's Day.